We agreed on the break. We said it was mutual, that we both needed time to work on ourselves. So I went to therapy, read the books, dug into my childhood wounds. But when I came back ready to rebuild, he was already engaged. He didn't want healing. He wanted out. I'm Camille, 36, and I've never felt so stupid in my entire life. Because I really believed him. When Daniel and I sat across from each other in that tiny, overpriced marriage counselor's office and said the words, "Let's take space," I thought we were on the same page. I thought we were fighting for our marriage. I thought we were grown-ups doing the responsible thing instead of letting resentment rot us from the inside out. God, I thought we were brave. We'd been married for 7 years, together for 10. The last couple years had been rough, 2 miscarriages, job stress, his drinking creeping up at night. I'd grown cold, detached. I could feel myself pulling back and I hated it, but I didn't know how to stop. He, on the other hand, grew louder, more impatient. He stopped asking how I was and started asking why the laundry hadn't been folded yet, why the groceries weren't restocked, why I always seemed tired. We both knew something was dying, but neither of us could name it. So we said it was time. A break, a pause, not a breakup, not a divorce, just a reset. Daniel even moved out gently, took only what he needed, left his wedding ring in the drawer beside the bed like a promise that he was coming back. We still talked, weekly calls to check in, updates about our jobs, our mutual friends, sometimes even little things. Did you see that couple from yoga had their baby? You left your favorite mug here, should I drop it off? I thought it meant something. I thought the slowness, the kindness, the lack of shouting meant there was still something real between us. So I dove in. I signed up for therapy. Finally unpacked all the shit I'd been avoiding, my controlling mother, my perfectionism, how I learned to bury my needs so others wouldn't abandon me. It hurt. But I showed up every week. I cried, I journaled, I did the fucking work. And when my therapist asked, "What's your goal with Daniel?" I said, "To come back stronger." She nodded, "You can't rebuild unless you're both willing." And that's when I should have asked myself, is he actually doing any of this? But I didn't, I assumed. I assumed that because he still picked up the phone, because he still responded to my texts, because he didn't fight me on anything. I assumed that meant he was waiting. Turns out he was just being polite while he moved on without me. I found out by accident. 4.5 months into our break, I texted him. "Me, therapy, been intense but good. Want to meet up soon? Maybe check in about where we are." No answer. Not for 2 days. Then I saw it on Instagram of all places, a tagged post. "Daniel and Kelsey," she said yes. Kelsey, a woman I'd met once at a dinner party a year ago. Blonde, wide smile, Pilates instructor. I remember thinking she was cute and harmless. She laughed at all of Daniel's jokes, even the dry, awkward ones. I stared at the photo for 5 minutes. The caption, the ring, his hand on her waist. I thought I was hallucinating. Called him immediately. He picked up on the 3rd ring, voice calm. "Camille, tell me that's a joke." Silence. "Then I was going to call you. I didn't want you to find out that way." "You're engaged." He exhaled. It happened fast, I didn't plan it. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. "Daniel, we were on a break, not divorced, not broken up. A fucking break. What happened to space? Working on ourselves? Coming back?" "You said you were working on yourself," he said flatly. I didn't say anything. And that was it. That was the moment everything fell into place. He never wanted to come back. He never said he would. I was the only one holding on to the illusion. "I feel like a fucking idiot," I whispered. "You're not," he said. "You just wanted something different than I did." I hung up. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just sat there, staring at the ring I still wore on my finger. The one he'd left behind in the drawer like a goddamn breadcrumb. I followed straight into humiliation. The next few days were a blur. I texted my therapist and canceled sessions. I ignored friends' calls. I went back to sleeping in Daniel's old t-shirt like some widow mourning a man who wasn't even dead. And you know what the worst part was? He hadn't cheated, he hadn't lied, not really. He just let me believe something he no longer believed in, because it was easier than being the villain. And that broke me in a way betrayal never could. I didn't plan to see them, not so soon, not together, not like that. It was my friend Jayla's birthday. Rooftop bar, sunset drinks, casual invite in the group chat. I hadn't been out in months, but something in me refused to stay home that night. I needed proof that the world still turned, that I still existed. I curled my hair, put on mascara, wore a dress Daniel had once said made me look like a boss and a bombshell at the same time. I told myself this wasn't about him. I told myself it was about me, regaining control, feeling human again. But the universe is cruel. Because just as I stepped onto the rooftop, the elevator behind me dinged, and there he was. Daniel. And her. Kelsey. The fiancé. She wore a backless navy jumpsuit, silver hoops, and a smile that looked like it had never known heartbreak. He was behind her, hand lightly resting on her lower back like they'd been rehearsing this entrance all day. They looked polished, effortless, synchronized in that obnoxious couple's telepathy way I used to think Daniel and I had. Our eyes met. His widened for a fraction of a second, panic, guilt, surprise, and then, just like that, it vanished. He nodded. Civil, cool, like we were acquaintances. Kelsey's eyes lit up. Oh, Camille, right? You're the one who used to do yoga with Claire. Used to do yoga with Claire. That's what I was now, a side note. I forced a smile so tight my jaw ached. Yep, Camille. Wow, so good to see you. Daniel said you were doing a lot of therapy. That's so brave. I blinked. She just said that. Out loud, in public, in heels, while standing next to my almost husband wearing my future. I couldn't breathe. I faked a laugh. Yeah, very brave. Excuse me, I need to find the birthday girl. I moved past them like they were strangers, but my heart was pounding like I'd just run up 20 flights of stairs barefoot. I found Jayla near the bar, hugged her, complimented her dress, pretended I wasn't in the middle of an emotional cardiac arrest. But the whole night, my eyes kept drifting back to them. Daniel with his hand on Kelsey's waist, Kelsey whispering something in his ear, both of them laughing at some joke the rest of us weren't in on. And I realized something that shattered me. They were comfortable. Not in the shiny, exciting way of new couples, in the settled way. She knew how he took his drink. He knew which part of her back to touch when someone walked by too close. She ordered for both of them. He helped her fix her earring when it slipped loose. They weren't fresh. They were familiar. And suddenly, I saw everything in reverse. The break, a cover. The quiet withdrawal before he moved out, emotional pre-separation. The space he so graciously gave me. Just enough rope for me to hang myself with illusions while he set up a soft landing elsewhere. I stepped outside onto the patio. The city stretched out in golden lights below. My hands shook so hard I nearly dropped my phone. And that's when I texted Claire. Me, be honest, did Daniel know Kelsey before we split? She took 10 minutes to respond, and in that silence, my stomach turned cold. Claire, Cam, I didn't want to be the one to say anything. But yeah, they were flirting for a while before you moved out. I thought it was harmless. Harmless? Nothing about it had been harmless. Daniel had emotionally checked out and left the door open just wide enough for Kelsey to walk through. And while I was sobbing in therapy, dissecting my childhood, grieving our miscarriages, blaming myself for being distant, he was rehearsing forever with someone else. I don't remember the rest of the night. I know I ordered another drink. I know Jayla asked if I was okay, and I said, never better. I know I left early and walked home in heels that blistered my feet because I needed to feel something physical, something I could name. At home, I opened our wedding album. Yes, I still had it, buried under a stack of old papers I hadn't had the guts to go through. I flipped to the photo where Daniel was tucking a curl behind my ear, looking at me like I was the only woman he'd ever love. I stared at it until my eyes blurred. And then I whispered, "You coward." Because that's what it was, wasn't it? Not just betrayal. Not just abandonment. Cowardice. He didn't end it when it was ending. He let me drag us through therapy, guilt, hope, and pain just so he could walk away clean, untouched, innocent. And the worst part, he got away with it. No fights, no affairs, no messy breakup. just a mutual pause that somehow turned into his perfect new beginning. And I was the ghost, still haunting the ruins. The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes and a sick feeling in my gut that no amount of coffee could touch. I told myself, no more crying over people who already replaced me. I repeated it like a mantra, in the shower, at the mirror, while buttering my toast and forcing myself to eat half of it. I was done playing the ex-wife in waiting, the ghost, the pitiful leftover from Daniel's redemption arc. So I did what every broken woman with a Pinterest board and a rising cortisol level eventually does. I rebranded. I signed up for boxing, bought overpriced running shoes, got balayage highlights and a new pair of jeans that didn't sag in the knees. I updated my LinkedIn profile, posted a quote on Instagram about healing not being linear, and watched as my ex's cousin liked it within seconds. I joined a women's group that did full moon journaling rituals on rooftops and cried together in lavender-scented circles. I bought a giant glass water bottle because apparently that's how you show you're hydrated and healing now. I kept telling myself, you're doing it, you're moving on. But every night, I checked Kelsey's socials on a burner account. Every smiling selfie, every meal pic tagged brunch toaster, every post of Daniel rubbing her belly while she laughed with a ring glinting on her finger, it all sent a sick jolt of voltage straight through my chest. Yes, belly. Because 2 weeks after the rooftop sighting, Kelsey announced her pregnancy on Instagram. She wore a white wrap dress and held a tiny ultrasound photo to her chest while Daniel kissed her temple. The caption read, "Sometimes the universe gives you everything you didn't know you were waiting for." It got 318 likes in under an hour. I sat on my bed, still wearing the boxing gloves I hadn't had the energy to take off, and whispered, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I thought about our miscarriages, the raw sobs in the ER, the silence afterward, the way Daniel used to say, maybe it's a sign we're not ready. And now, suddenly, he was ready. I closed the app, hurled the gloves across the room, and then I did something so petty, so impulsive, I can't believe I'm even admitting it. I messaged her. From the burner. "Did he tell you we were still married when you met?" She didn't respond right away. But I saw the read notification. Then nothing. 3 days passed. I told myself she was ignoring it, that she dismissed it as some bitter ex trying to stir the pot. But then I got a message from someone I didn't expect. Claire, the same mutual friend who'd confirmed they'd been flirty before the breakup. She sent a screenshot of a text Kelsey had forwarded her in panic. "I don't get it. He told me they were done MONTHS before the separation. He said she'd emotionally checked out and he was just staying for closure." Claire added one line under the screenshot. "Camille, he lied to both of you." It hit like a punch to the ribs. Daniel had rewritten the timeline. For Kelsey, for Claire, for himself. He'd turned our grief, our therapy, our fucking break into a neat little PR campaign about how I left, he healed, they found each other. Clean, painless, heroic. He didn't just move on, he revised history to make himself look like the one who tried. I sat on my floor for a long time, staring at that message. And then I laughed, out loud, this dry, breathless, almost hysterical laugh. Because for months I'd been blaming myself for not being enough, for being too distant, too broken, too complicated. And all along, Daniel had just been crafting his exit. I thought we were both standing at the edge, trying to figure out how to rebuild. He was already on the next block, house hunting with someone else. I wanted to scream, throw something, warn Kelsey. But what would I even say? "Hey, congrats on the baby. Just a heads up, the man holding your belly like it's sacred used to tell me he didn't think parenthood was emotionally sustainable." What's the point? She's where I used to be. And he's already rewritten the ending. The next week I saw him. At a baby store. I was there buying a gift for my niece, some overpriced bamboo onesies. And there they were, at the registry counter, Kelsey radiant and glowing, Daniel holding a stroller catalog like it was a map to the future. I could have walked away, pretended I didn't see them. But I didn't. I walked up calm, smiling, poised. "Hey." They both turned. Daniel blinked, Kelsey froze. Camille, he said, careful, measured. I looked straight at her. Congratulations, I saw the post. She opened her mouth, closed it, then managed a small, thank you. I turned to him. And with the coldest, most honest voice I've ever heard come out of my mouth, I said, just curious, did you ever tell her the truth? Or is she still living in the version of the story where I left you broken and you bravely rebuilt from the ashes? He looked like I'd slapped him. She looked at him, and something shifted in her expression, just slightly, just enough. I didn't wait for a response. I walked away with my little bag of onesies, head high, heart pounding, hands shaking. But for once, I didn't feel powerless. I felt seen, even if just for a second. It was a Wednesday afternoon when I got the message. Unknown number, no name, just, "Hi, it's Kelsey. I think we need to talk." I stared at my phone for a full minute, heart thudding in my chest like a warning bell. I almost didn't respond. I thought, what's the point? This isn't my circus anymore. Let her figure it out on her own. But curiosity is a cruel drug. Me, talk about what? She replied instantly. Kelsey, Daniel, out of town tonight. Can we meet? Somewhere public. I paused. Public? So this wasn't a chat, this was something else. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop near the Botanical Gardens. Neutral territory. Quiet, but not too quiet. I got there early, ordered a tea I wouldn't drink, sat near the window and watched the clock. She arrived exactly on time. No makeup, no jewelry, hair pulled into a tight bun, black hoodie stretched over her belly like a fragile balloon. And for the first time, she looked scared. Not glowing, not smug. Human. She sat across from me, clutching a cup of mint tea like it was an anchor. We didn't speak for a full 30 seconds. Then she said quietly, I didn't know. I raised an eyebrow, didn't know what. Her eyes filled with tears, any of it. I said nothing. I thought you'd broken up months before, she whispered. He said you'd checked out, that you were just going through the motions, that you weren't intimate, that he was basically single. I let that sink in. Kelsey looked at me, eyes rimmed red. I'm not trying to make excuses, I didn't want to believe you when you messaged me. But after the store, after what you said, I started thinking. And when I asked questions, he got defensive, said you were unstable, that you were trying to ruin what we have. I swallowed, he said that. She nodded. I asked for a timeline when exactly things ended. He kept changing the subject, so I looked at his email, his calendar, his texts from last year. I said nothing. Her hands trembled as she pulled out her phone and slid it across the table. Open on the screen was a message from Daniel dated 2 weeks before our separation. Had lunch with Kay again, she makes things feel lighter, easier, like the version of life I could still be happy in. I stared at it. He hadn't just met her after we split. He'd been test driving her while I was still in the passenger seat. Kelsey whispered, I was the escape plan. I looked up, and for the first time, I didn't see the other woman. I saw a woman who'd been lied to, manipulated, drawn into a fantasy spun from my pain. I'm sorry, she said suddenly. I never should have believed him. I should have asked more questions. But I was stupid and in love, and I thought I'd won. I exhaled slowly. He made you feel chosen. After someone else was discarded, it's not stupid, it's human. She wiped her cheek, so what do I do now? That caught me off guard. She wasn't just apologizing, she was asking for guidance. I should have said, figure it out yourself. But what came out was, you're pregnant. You don't owe him loyalty, but you do owe yourself peace. Decide if you can live with the version of him you just met, not the one he pretended to be. She nodded slowly, like she was taking that in piece by piece. We sat in silence after that. Two women with completely different lives, bound together by the same man's lies. She stood up first. Thank you for not being cruel, you could have been, and I would have deserved it. I gave a small shrug. I've been cruel enough to myself lately. I'm tired. Then she said something I didn't expect. He still talks about you, you know, with this weird admiration. Like you were always stronger than him and he hated it. I blinked. And now I think maybe you were. Then she left. I sat there long after she was gone, watching the sun slide through the coffee shop window, dust motes catching in the light like glitter. And for the first time in over a year, I didn't feel crazy. I didn't feel like the overly emotional wife who asked for space and regretted it. I felt seen, verified, real. He hadn't left because I was broken. He left because I wasn't breakable enough. Because I asked for more than he wanted to give. And Kelsey, for all her grace and softness, was just the first person who didn't make him feel inadequate. But now she knew. And I wasn't the ghost anymore. I was the damn narrator. After Kelsey walked out of that cafe, I didn't go home. I walked, for hours, past bookstores and restaurants, past couples laughing over wine, past park benches and dog walkers and teenagers making TikToks. The whole world felt surreal, like I'd cracked open a secret layer underneath it. I should have been livid. Should have been drafting an Instagram post with the perfect caption to expose him. Turns out our break was just his cover story. Funny how women find the truth when we start comparing notes. But I didn't post anything. I didn't text him. I didn't need to. Because for the first time since our separation, I wasn't clinging to the version of the story where I was the reason things fell apart. I wasn't asking myself what I could have done differently, or why I wasn't enough, or whether I'd overreacted in therapy when I said I felt unseen. I was finally done giving him the lead role in my grief. He didn't break me. He just got out first and left me alone to clean up a mess he helped make. The next morning, I woke up without that heaviness in my chest. Not joy, not yet, but air, space, clarity. I went to the farmer's market, bought sunflowers for my apartment, smiled at a little girl who tripped near the tomato stand and said, "Oops," like it was a curse word. For once, I didn't feel invisible. I started saying yes again, to dinner with friends, to wine without apology, to movies that made me laugh instead of dissect my emotions. I got a promotion at work. I repainted my bedroom. I deleted the burner Instagram account. And when Kelsey messaged me 2 weeks later to say she was moving out, it's not safe to raise a child with someone who lies so easily, I didn't gloat. I just sent her a heart emoji and wrote, "You're stronger than you think." Because she was. Because we both were. Then came the thing I didn't see coming. A wedding, not his. Our mutual friend Asha was getting married and invited both of us, me and Daniel. I almost declined. But then I thought, no, you're not skipping life because of him. So I bought a black jumpsuit. Tailored, clean lines, low back, nothing flashy, just sharp enough to say, "I survived you." And I walked into that wedding alone. Daniel was already there, standing near the bar, hair shorter, suit tighter around the shoulders. He looked smaller, not physically, just emotionally shrunk, like someone who knew his moment had passed. He saw me. Of course he did. And his jaw tightened the way it always did when he was unsure whether to greet me or retreat. I walked straight past him. Not to be cruel. To be free. Later, during the reception, he approached. Soft voice, hands in his pockets like he used to do when he was nervous. "Camille." I nodded, "Daniel." He stared at his shoes. "I heard about Kelsey. She told me you two met." I raised an eyebrow. She figured it out. He nodded. She did. Pause. Then she left. I said nothing. Then he added, almost like a confession, "You were right about all of it. I didn't want to fix things. I just didn't want to be the one who ended it." My mouth went dry. He finally said it. He looked up, "I'm sorry." I didn't say I forgave him. I didn't say thank you. I just smiled calm and clean and said, "I know." He looked like he wanted to say more, but I turned to go. And in that moment, I realized. He was no longer the man who got to decide my ending. He was just a chapter. And I was already halfway through the next one. When I got home that night, I poured a glass of wine, turned on Nina Simone, and danced barefoot in my kitchen. Not for an audience, not for a story, not to prove anything. Just because the music was good. And I felt alive. There's this photo of me that I keep coming back to. It was taken at brunch. Ashaz snapped it mid-laugh, me, head tilted back, sunlight across my face, coffee in one hand, mimosa in the other. I wasn't posing. I wasn't trying to look okay. I was okay. When she sent it to our group chat, I stared at it for a long time, not out of vanity, but because I didn't recognize myself in the best possible way. I looked like someone who'd survived a fire. Not untouched, not unchanged, but rebuilt. Things got quieter after that. Not boring, just grounded. I stopped obsessively tracking Daniel's existence. The algorithm finally caught on and stopped feeding me his new girlfriend's yoga content. Yes, there was another one. I stopped mentally scripting responses I'd never send. I stopped hopping for karma, for closure, for some epic movie ending moment where he'd show up crying, realizing what he lost. Because I didn't want that anymore. I didn't want him. I wanted me, and I was finally getting her back. I started writing again. Not journal entries. Not angry letters I'd never send. Actual essays, short stories, observations from the wreckage of my past life distilled into prose sharp enough to make people pause. I submitted one on a whim to a digital magazine. They published it. Then 2 more. People messaged me, strangers, women, saying, "Thank you for saying what I never could." One wrote, "I thought I was crazy until I read this. Turns out I was just gaslit." And with every message, I felt a piece of that shame I'd carried, quietly, secretly, crumble to dust. I'd spent so long blaming myself, for the break, for the loss, for not seeing the truth. But now, that guilt wasn't mine to carry. And without it weighing me down, there was space for something else. I met Jonah at a used bookstore. Not in a rom-com way. He didn't spill coffee on me or quote Bukowski or save me from getting hit by a bike courier. He just stood beside me in the memoir section, holding the body keeps the score, and said, "This one broke me in the best way." I smiled, then it's exactly what I need. We chatted, briefly, politely. He had soft eyes and a scar on his jaw like a punctuation mark. I didn't overthink it. I did Google him. I didn't mentally try on his last name. But when he asked if I wanted to grab coffee, I said yes. Not because I was lonely. Because I was curious. We talked for 2 hours. No big trauma dumps, no oversharing, just light, steady conversation. I told him I was divorced. He didn't flinch. He said, "Then you probably know yourself better than most people." I said, "I'm working on it." He smiled. "That's the only work that matters." We didn't kiss that night. But I went home feeling open, like the walls I'd spent 2 years patching together didn't need to be bulletproof anymore. Maybe soft was okay. One afternoon, I got lunch with my therapist. Yes, my therapist. We'd ended formal sessions months ago, but she reached out to say thank you after reading my latest essay. She'd recognized herself in one of the characters, the guide who held the lantern while the client found her own way out. We sat outside a bakery, sipping iced tea, watching a toddler throw croissants at pigeons. She said, "You know what I love most about you, Camille?" I laughed, that I pay on time. She shook her head, that you didn't fight to win him back, you fought to understand yourself instead. Most people don't realize that's the actual victory. I didn't say anything, I just nodded. Because she was right. I didn't lose Daniel. I just stopped carrying someone who'd already walked away. And in doing so, I got something better. I got myself. Later that evening, I passed a mirror on my way out the door. I stopped. Not to fix my hair. Not to check my outfit. But because for the first time in years, I looked at my own reflection and thought, I'd want to know this woman. Not because she's beautiful. Not because she has it all figured out. But because she knows how to burn and rebuild. How to bleed and still offer warmth. How to be alone and still feel whole. And maybe, just maybe, how to love again. On her own terms. No pauses, no breaks. No exits disguised as healing. Just truth. Just her. Just me. It had been almost 2 years since I last saw him. Daniel. By then, I had stopped wondering when it would happen, stopped rehearsing what I'd say, stopped needing it. But life has a cruel sense of humor, or maybe a perfectly timed one. I was at a bookstore again, signing copies of a small essay collection I'd published. Nothing flashy, just indie press, modest release, small crowd. A few chairs, some string lights, and a table stacked with my name on the cover. The title. The break wasn't mutual. Poetic right. Halfway through the evening, I glanced toward the door, and there he was. Daniel. Standing near the entrance, holding a copy of the book, looking at the cover like it had punched him in the chest. He looked older, not in the gray hair kind of way, just worn, like life had pressed pause and then forgot to unpause. His shirt was too big. His eyes had the hollowness of someone who no longer knew which role he was playing. Our eyes met. And this time, I was the calm one. He walked up slowly, no swagger, no act. "Hey," he said, almost a whisper. "Hi." He held up the book. "So, I'm guessing this one's about me." I smiled, parts of it, but mostly it's about me. That landed. He looked down. "It's good, I mean, what I've read so far." I waited. Because I knew something else was coming. It always does. "I didn't know how much I'd hurt you," he said, finally. "Back then, I thought I was being kind, letting you go without a fight. I thought that was mercy." I nodded. "I know. I see now it was cowardice." "That too." Silence. He looked around at the bookstore, the stack of books, the crowd behind me asking for selfies. "You did something with it," he murmured. "All that pain, you built something." I didn't say thank you. I didn't need his approval. I'd written the truth into pages that already belonged to me. Then he said the thing. The one they always say, eventually. "I miss who we were." I tilted my head. "I don't." He blinked. Not cruel, just honest. "I don't miss who I was with you," I added. She didn't know how to ask for what she needed. She kept shrinking to fit your version of peace. He swallowed. "I didn't realize I made you feel that small." "You didn't make me, but you liked me better that way." And that was the moment. The one I'd fantasized about for months in the thick of my grief. Except now, I didn't need revenge, I didn't need regret, I didn't need anything from him. Because I'd already written my way out. He nodded once, quietly, then looked toward the door. "I should let you get back." I didn't stop him. But as he turned, I added, "I hope you're working on becoming the kind of man you pretended to be." He turned slightly. "I'm trying." And then he left. No drama, no rainstorm, no slow-motion longing. Just gone. This time for good. That night, after everyone left, I sat alone in the empty bookstore, sipping lukewarm tea, surrounded by the quiet hum of fluorescent lights. And I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. Not because he apologized, but because I no longer needed one. I had done the hardest thing a woman can do. I chose to stop being a footnote in someone else's story. I became the narrator. The author. The voice. Not the one who waited to be fought for. The one who finally stopped begging to be seen and built a life where she could see herself clearly. And in that final image, me alone, free, whole, I realized something. I didn't need Daniel to close the chapter. I was already writing a brand new book.